You use the internet every single day. You stream, you scroll, you send emails complaining about being too busy to send emails. And yet, have you ever actually stopped to wonder, who's paying for all of this? I don't mean your $12 a month subscription to yet another platform you forgot you signed up for. I mean the actual internet. The wires, the buildings, the unfathomable amounts of electricity. The people whose whole job is to sail boats across the ocean and fix cables that sharks, yes, sharks, occasionally try to eat. The internet costs an almost incomprehensible amount of money to run. And today we're going to follow the money, from the ocean floor to your electricity bill. Because spoiler, you're already paying for it, you just don't know it yet. Here's a fact that should genuinely unsettle you. 95% of all the world's international internet traffic travels through cables on the bottom of the ocean, not satellites, not the cloud, which, by the way, is just a very dramatic word for someone else's computer in a warehouse. Actual, physical cables sitting on the seafloor in the dark, being occasionally bothered by tectonic plates and fishing trawlers. And here's the kicker. For most of their journey across thousands of miles of open ocean, these cables are roughly the size of a garden hose. Inside that hose, strands of glass fiber, each about as thick as a human hair, firing laser pulses at hundreds of terabits per second. It's basically magic, except it costs $250 million to build. A transatlantic cable, New York to London, runs about $250 million. A trans-Pacific one, up to $400 million. And as of early 2026, there are over 600 of these systems in operation or planned, stretching more than 1.5 million kilometers across the ocean floor. Now, cables break, about 100 times a year globally. Most of the time it's a ship anchor, sometimes an earthquake. And when they do break, you send out a repair ship with a highly trained crew, which costs tens of thousands of dollars per day, and it can take weeks or months to fix. One repair, anywhere from $1 to $4 million, depending on how deep it is and how cranky the sea is feeling. In early 2024, 4 undersea cables were severed in the Red Sea near Yemen in a single event. That one incident knocked out 70% of the data traffic between Europe and Asia and disrupted internet access for over 100 million people. 80 million gone, because someone dragged something across the wrong patch of ocean floor. Okay, so the data travels under the ocean and eventually arrives on land. Where does it go? Into a data center, which is, in the most reductive possible terms, a building full of computers that never sleep, never take a lunch break, and drink electricity like it's going out of style. There are about 12,000 data center facilities worldwide, with around 500 large-scale ones doing most of the heavy lifting. Together, they represent roughly 135 gigawatts of capacity, and that number is expected to triple by 2035. Here's where it gets a little alarming. In 2024, US data centers alone consumed 183 terawatt hours of electricity. That's more than 4% of everything the United States generates. For reference, that's roughly the same as the entire annual electricity consumption of Pakistan, a country of 240 million people. And there's one place in America where this hits particularly hard, a suburb of Washington, D.C. called Ashburn, Virginia. There's a stretch of road there nicknamed Data Center Alley. It hosts more data center capacity than anywhere else on Earth, and at any given moment, something like 70% of the world's internet traffic passes through it. It's basically the internet's beating heart. Virginia's data centers now consume more than 1 in every 4 kilowatt hours of electricity generated in the entire state. The power grid has had to be fundamentally rebuilt to keep up. And none of this even touches on water. In 2023, US data centers gulped down 17 billion gallons of water just for cooling. That's not a typo. Billion. With a B. Now take everything I just described and imagine someone turned the dial all the way to 11. That's what AI is doing to the internet's costs right now. A regular Google search uses about 0.3 watt-hours of electricity. A single ChatGPT query? About 2.9 watt-hours, nearly 10 times more. And we're doing billions of these a day. A single AI-focused data center, what the industry calls a hyperscaler, uses as much electricity per year as 100,000 homes. The next generation of AI campuses being built right now are expected to use 20 times that. Training one large AI model requires so much power that tech companies are literally restarting decommissioned coal plants to keep up. Plants that were built in the 1970s, running on borrowed time, and about to become someone's quarterly earnings problem. The AI boom has caused wholesale electricity prices near major data centers to rise by up to 267% since 2020. That's not a typo either. Here's the part where this stops being abstract. All of that new infrastructure, the power lines, the transformers, the grid upgrades needed to wire up the next generation of data centers, utilities are quietly passing those costs to ordinary customers. In 2025, utilities requested over $29 billion in rate increases, double what they asked for in 2024. The average US electricity bill, which was steady at around 13 cents per kilowatt hour for over a decade, jumped to 19 cents by the end of 2025. That's a 27% increase, and it's expected to climb another 40% by 2030. In Maryland and Ohio, residents near data center clusters are already seeing their monthly electricity bills go up $16 to $18 a month, not because they're using more power, but because the infrastructure required to serve a nearby building full of servers got passed along to them. The internet is free to use. The bill just comes in a different envelope. So what does it all add up to? There's no single clean number for what the internet costs to run. It's too sprawling, too interconnected, spread across too many companies and governments and undersea repair ships bobbing around in the South China Sea. But here's what we do know. The internet is, structurally, one of the most expensive things humanity has ever built and continues to build. Every search, every stream, every email, especially the ones where you just type "thanks" and hit send, which by the way produces about 4 grams of CO2 and takes up server space that someone, somewhere, is paying for. And that cost is going up, fast. The internet was sold to us as something that lives in the cloud, weightless, invisible, free. But there's nothing weightless about 1.5 million kilometers of cable on the ocean floor, or 135 gigawatts of power humming through buildings in Virginia at 3 in the morning. The internet is physical, it is expensive, and somewhere between your router and a server farm in the middle of the desert, someone is paying for every single thing you click. It might as well be interesting to know who,